All right. So welcome everyone to Writers Morning Out this afternoon for reasons that are historical. And today we are very pleased to welcome Yvette Holder, who is a proud Native theater artist of North Carolina. Yvette is committed to the work of supporting, developing, and advancing original plays written by North Carolina playwrights. She operates a thriving monthly platform, Sips and Scripts, that she founded in 2017 with a mission to help lead North Carolina playwrights to stage success. Engaging in various conversations with writers off and on throughout the years has piqued Yvette's interest in finding out how writers of all genres could grow creatively by exploring the synergy generated when working together. New York's Lee Strasberg Institute of Dramatic Arts and a BA in theater at the historically Black College, North Carolina Central University, gave Yvette a strong foundation that sustains her throughout her theater journey. Support from Theater in the Park, Burning Coal, Playmakers Repertory Theater, and North Carolina State University Theater, as well as community arts sponsorship, keep her passion alive as Yvette focuses on the next opportunity to open doors for North Carolina playwrights. Welcome, Yvette. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Jody. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I've been waiting for this.
Yeah. We've been looking forward to this. This is
yes,
great.
Yes.
All right, well, let's start off. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in theater?
Well, theater started, the passion started in 6th grade. I wrote my own play. My teacher asked for volunteers to write a play, and I raised my hand with enthusiasm. And it was produced on my little elementary school stage. And I knew then I wanted to be an actress, film at that time. And then when I was able to get my going to studies, I studied, of course, theater. Never really got to film. I did one little film, but that's it. But mainly all theater. My passion grew more in that area and kind of drifted away from film. And so I went to North Carolina School of the Arts for my beginning studies. I was approached by a representative from there and to audition for a program. I've never had any kind of formal training or anything like that. I'm coming from a very small town. And so I get there and get all my training. I mean, it was a shock of the things that I've learned, and just really appreciative of that. That's my foundation. So I said, okay, well, I auditioned for that, got in. So I want to go to New York, where my other side of the family is, my mom's side, to study there, and at Lee Strasberg Institute of Dramatic Arts. But unfortunately, before I left, my father got really sick, and I really thought that he was not going to make it. So he was stable enough for me to go, but I still had that in the back of my mind, and I studied there. Got homesick, and I said, you know what? I really want to be near my mother and my father. So I said, if I'm gonna get this degree, I have to make all this work, and I did. And so I found North Carolina Central University, had a great reputation for theater. I said, I want to go, and called and talked to the chairman and got in and all that, and was able to stay at home with my parents. My father got well, and I ended in 1994 with a degree in the Bachelor's of Arts in Dramatic Arts. And then, of course, I had my children, took a long hiatus and raised my children, and I felt comfortable to get back into theater again, but I didn't get into performance when I came back. I got into producing my first comedian, a dinner theater comedy show. That's what it was, at a restaurant. It was a hit. It was packed out, and learned some experiences during that, and took another break and came back in full in full spring back in 2017. And that's when I formed November 2017 Sips and Scripts that started out with just local playwrights like around this area. And I just did not think at the time how big it was going to be. It was more like a trial thing. Wasn't sure where it was going to go until I started like, I was like, I need some writers. I couldn't find, enough writers at the time. And so I freaked out. I'm like, okay, should I make this beyond, this area? Because I really need some scripts. I need to get, to have some material. So I contacted on Facebook this playwrights group from all over the place asking for scripts because I needed scripts. So they sent me all these scripts and I had like 100. And I thanked everybody that sent it. It took me 2:00 in the morning, thanking everybody for it because I was so happy that I had something to work with. And I started the program just like that. Had actors come down to read the scripts, and I took the notes for the playwrights, and I sent the notes to the playwrights, and that's how it got started. And then when playwrights around here started hearing about Sips and Scripts and how successful it was becoming, then I started getting the writers, the local writers around here coming out of nowhere, bringing their scripts to present to get feedback. And that's how it started.
Okay, that's great. I think Penny has some pictures she can show us of what Sips and Scripts, what an evening looks like at Sips and Scripts. Yvette, maybe you could talk a little bit about what an evening at Sips and Scripts, the current incarnation of it, what it looks like.
Absolutely. So people like playwrights and actors, they arrive as close to 5:00 as possible so they can get on the list. The first 6 playwrights that come to sign up are guaranteed to present. And then between 5 and 6 is like prep time. They find their actors, they find their cast, and then they have like a little, meeting and talk about the script, that kind of thing, just to prepare for 6:00. And at 6:00 we start right on the dot, or close to the dot. And what they do is the first reading of whoever's first, they have up to 20 seconds to introduce themselves and talk about the piece, up to 20 seconds. The reading begins with the actors, with their cast. And then after the reading comes the feedback session for about 5 or 6 minutes. So that means you have about 5 or 6 people giving their feedback to the writers. Actors can also participate and give the feedback as well. And it's like a nice big discussion within 5 to 6 minutes. And then the next reading happens and same thing, it just repeats the same format. But it's, people can come and come as a reader to read the scripts, or you can come as a playwright to present your work. Or just come and hear what the playwrights are writing about. You don't have to be an actor or just, you can just come to observe and see what this is all about, that kind of thing. So yeah, and it starts at 6:00 and we usually end about, say, between 8 and 8:15. And it's free and it's open to all.
And the energy in the room, having been to some of these, the energy in the room is fantastic. And as a novelist, I just really love the opportunity to show up with a scene from one of my novels in play form. So something I encourage all us novelists to do, just to put in a plug.
We've enjoyed having you. We've really enjoyed having you. It's just awesome to have another artist from another genre to come and share. I mean, that is something that I'm experimenting right now that I'm really fascinated with, and it's been great to have you there.
Well,
you and a couple of other people.
Yeah, it's a great crowd, and you know, the fact that we can get together, as you said, with, you know, there's no money involved. It's just everybody just shows up with their talents and their enthusiasm. It's just great.
Absolutely.
So tell us about, so, you know, you've done a lot of work, Yvette, with around the synergy across different literary forms and formats. And and how do you see creating new forms for a story as expanding our creative potential, whether it's turning a novel into a play or a script, or turning a poem into a mono, you know, how do you see that expanding our creativity?
Well, first, let me tell you the visual that I have in my mind every single time I think of synergy, of writers coming together or just artists coming together. I have to tell you what it looks like. It looks like a band of yellow.
Mm,
You know, that pops in my mind every single time I talk about what the synergy looks like. So I envision like writers at a long rectangular table, you know, and each person who's thinking, you know, all that individual thinking is combined, and you know, the sharing of philosophies, the sharing of culture, the
mhm,
sharing of styles, the sharing of expertise, you know, all of those things coming together, combined, creates this yellow beam of light, you know,
mm,
and that's
mm,
what I envision every single time. Um, and this is something that I haven't explored a whole lot. I've just explored it maybe about 3 or 4 times, but it just to have like people there, um, I think that it makes you a better writer. It makes you a more robust
mm,
writer. You
mhm,
know, it helps us to sharpen your abilities. It helps you to look at life, people, and situations in from a whole different lens, if you know what I mean.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
it helps you to look at problems, to analyze problems differently, and critical thinking, things like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's great. And can you talk a little more about how Sips and Scripts, how that program empowers novelists interested in reinventing their stories into theater scripts?
Well, first of all, writing for the stage is exhilarating. It
Mm,
really is. It is a fun challenge for novelists and any other types of writers. It really is. And um, novelists and anybody that goes for story, there's already a kinship in theater there. It's already a kinship established in theater because you already have established knowing the art of story, the art of character development, the structure, all that. And that is actually a great preparation for writing for the stage.
mhm, mhm,
You know, I mean, I tell people like it's like wanting to know Italian, but you already know Spanish. They are very similar. There are
mm,
some differences, there are, but there's a
mhm,
lot of commonalities there. So it's a very easy um, skill set to just fall into very easily. You know, for since you already know the basic structure of story.
mm,
Um, yeah, so to take a risk to collaborate to create a story above your expectations is something that I think that people should just let go and just go for it. You know,
mhm, mhm.
allow your mind shift, allow your mindset to shift.
Yeah, yeah. And seeing a story that you've imagined brought to life by actual people is
Yeah,
a trip. It's just a trip, isn't it?
it is. It's a mind trip.
Yeah, yeah. So another project that you've been involved with at one point in your theater career is helping poets turn a poem or a set of poems into a one-person monologue for the stage. And in Writers Morning Out, we have a number of people who are poets, and I think it would be really interesting for them to hear about that project and how the poets connected with and experienced that process.
I've talked to maybe 2 or 3 poets, of course, trying to get them to write for the stage and bring what they already have to the table, but of course, in theater form. But there are dramatic monologue poems. It's characterized by a person that addresses a silent audience. I mean, those are the things that are in common. They reveal their thoughts, they reveal their experiences, they reveal their feelings. You know, all those things are very well connected between monologue for the stage and poem. So that's what I used to get poets involved. And that has worked so far, thank goodness. You know, because honestly, when I first did that, I wasn't sure. I mean, it popped in my head to express that, but I wasn't sure if it was going to work because I don't write poems. So, but it did, and I think that was a hook that I've always used, and I have actually, I'm not working with her, but I do have a playwright who writes poems. And she's seeing the benefit to that. So that's one example there that is proven that they both have, they also have a kinship there.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the first plays I ever saw was a theater adaptation of Spoon River Anthology, which is a collection of monologues that are, supposedly written by people, dead folks in a cemetery talking about their lives, and so powerful. So it just,
wow, that sounds very interesting. I always say, like, people, I hear these comments all the time. Oh, that cannot work. Oh, that cannot be done. Or rules or whatever. The beauty of bringing different things together that like make no sense to come together. That's the most intriguing thing to me, to seeing what the common things are, and then from there building art. And that's real creativity to me. Figuring out where two unique things meet together and creating art from that union. I mean, that is very fascinating to me, which is the reason why I'm coming to you today to talk about these particular things, with playwrights and other writers.
Yeah. Great. So let's shift for a minute from talking about the writer's experience to talking about the reader or the audience experience. How do you see playing with story and reinventing across forms as a way to reach new audiences?
Well, when a writer does those kinds of things, they're getting away from the mundane. It's innovative, it's compelling, it's memorable, and which is key to be innovative. Audiences love to be on their toes. They like to be challenged. They like to be educated. And they like their minds to be taken in different places, which is another skill for the writer, the level of creativity. And also, I mean, it's also the job of the writer to also know their audience as well. So those are the things that are very, very important in that particular area.
Yeah. And I'm imagining that if you've written a book and then you create it as a say a theater script, that you might reach a whole different group of people.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it benefits the writer to grab those new audiences too.
Right.
Yeah, in fact, that's something that we wanted to talk about, was how that experience of having, you might have your debut novel and your debut screenplay and your debut, maybe even movie script with the same storyline, and how that benefits the writer. And also, can you give us an example of somebody you've worked with who's done that?
Yeah, I shared with you with one person, but then something else came, the other experience, this is the one I really want to share, because it's I worked with this person for 2 years, and this person is a playwright and a screenwriter, but they were focusing more on their screenplay. And of course, I'm going to say, okay, now we're going to have to, let's do some adaptation. Let's see what it can do for the stage, that kind of thing. So it was, of course, the screenplay is all, film elements and stuff like that. And they were kind of more on the rules. Don't take film into the stage and stuff like that. I said, well, yeah, right, respect theater, and that's correct. But you can take those film elements and turn them into theatrical elements on the stage. No, we're not going to have real horses on the stage. No, but you can go through, they can be puppets. You can have people, you've seen The Lion King, right? And they had the little things, they look like lions, that kind of effect. There's so many different things to see. And that's what I'm saying. Theater is such a creative space that it just has you thinking on so many levels of how you can turn screen elements, whatever elements, into theatrics. And so that's what we did. So we had a stage reading, a aesthetic stage reading of a dark fantasy is what that genre was. And yes, we had puppetry. We had music. We had a nice little small quartet that was playing music. I think it called it musical landscape. It was just beautifully put together, this particular stage reading, and we haven't done the big production of it, but this script calls for so much theatrics that it's going to be kind of expensive, but it's going to be well done. And this screenplay, the screenwriter / playwright has so much to gave us so much to play with in the script, that it's going to be fascinating to the audience. And I cannot wait until we can get it on its feet, but it's going to cost some money because of the what's involved. But yeah, I mean, those are the kinds of things that I'm interested in seeing. What can be brought to the stage, and how the stage can translate it into theatrical forms. That can be done, but you will hear people say, oh, it can't be done. Please don't listen to that. Talk to someone like me that has a vision for these kinds of things, because yeah, so nothing like that intimidates me.
Yeah. In fact, you've recently set up a class for with an instructor for turning theater scripts into movie scripts. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So I'm not sure if you guys know, does anybody know Mark Cornell?
No.
From Chapel Hill?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Well, he was my instructor. Actually, he was the instructor. So he's a playwright, and he is a screenwriter. And he's always adapting his screenplays into plays. And he's he self-produces his work. And I said, you know what? That would be great for other people to learn how to do, because as playwrights are submitting their works to theaters waiting to get those results, they can have an adaptation, another version of their script, the film version, and they can also submit to another industry. So they have two things working at the same time,
Mhm.
and it creates more opportunity. And that was the reason why I had the class.
Mhm. And that class is still ongoing, isn't it?
We had our, that was a beta class, beta experiment
Okay.
class.
Okay,
So right, so we plan to bring that back. Yes,
that's great.
it's
That's
very
great.
important to know.
Okay, good. Um, and what about the kind of feedback that people give each other across forms? How does that benefit writers of different forms? For example, if you're a playwright, how can you benefit from feedback from novelists? Just thinking about this sort of cross-fertilization of ideas.
Right. Well, a lot comes out of that. I mean, a lot comes out of that. I mean, for a person from another genre, they breathe new life into the script with possible new discoveries. I mean, there's so much that comes out of those conversations that I've heard. But um, I feel that it can definitely give the script more dimension. Um, it gives the playwright deeper thought, because just because you're a writer doesn't mean you can think of everything. Um, and it can possibly give the script a new rhythm, you
Mm,
know,
mm,
things like that, and just the interaction between the playwright and the novelist is always very interesting when I'm sitting back and I'm listening to the discussion, because it's just it's not it just adds something to our discussion very differently from over the past years, and I like that. I like that unique interaction with two different types of writers,
mhm,
um, how they get to know each other, just the meeting of the minds,
mm.
just back and sparring back and forth, on different sides, and it's that's just really very helpful um, to the project and and for themselves as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. It really all comes down to story, doesn't it? I mean,
Yes, it does.
what underlies all this is story and how we serve our stories in different ways.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is great. It's amazing how many different projects you have going, Yvette, and how many different approaches to story and
Thank you.
how we can interface with each other. So,
Thank you.
so this
Yeah,
is great. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
that's okay. Sorry, I'm actually something came across my screen, but no, yeah. So this is just I'm just happy that people are interested in hearing about this kind of stuff because I would love to see one big piece on stage with an array of different styles. Um, that would address some of these hot topics that we're hearing about happening in this world. That would all these voices coming together in a production would be like spot on. So,
Mhm.
if anybody wants to talk about that kind of stuff, I'm all ears.
That's great. That's great. Well, I've been asking you a ton of questions, Yvette. I wanted to open this up and see if other folks on the call have questions for you about your various projects and your process. And I see Ruth Moose has joined us. Welcome, Ruth.
Thank you. I was at the farmer's market.
Well, we're glad you're here now. We're talking with Yvette Holder, who is telling us all about her work across forms with playwrights, novelists, poets, screenwriters, and bringing together all these different forms and formats for a great exercise in sort of the cross-pollination between forms. So you're joining at a good moment, Ruth. We're just opening this up for questions, and I see that Virginia has a question. Please go, Virginia.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. Hi, Yvette. Nice to hear about your work. It's very exciting. I love the interactive kind of potential for participation, in audience interaction with theater. And I think I don't know, my mind always goes to kids because they get so excited, when there's that electricity, I think, that happens in theater. I have a gazillion questions, but here are three. You mentioned Mark Cornell's class. Can you talk about opportunities for writers to, workshop things with theater people, or to get together or co-write or learn more about that? Number two is there a website? I found the Facebook group, but is there a website for knowing when the upcoming dates are so I can kind of plan ahead to participate?
Right. I
And
can.
then, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Then I guess my third question is there a software program that can help us think like a script writer, like a playwright, that I can, because I have to kind of shift my mind into that mode. I wondered if there's something helpful you could recommend, and I'll take your answers off.
Right. Software, that sounds interesting. I do not know of any as at the moment, but I'm writing that down to research that. I'm sure there is. None of my playwrights mentioned anything, but not saying it's not there. And as far as knowing what we do, or just keeping up with what we do, I have a nice, strong email list that I can add you to, if you're interested. Okay, and Mark Cornell's class, we're revamping the class. There are some exercises that he wants to explore that he thought of after the class, and this time we talked about breaking into groups and things like that. So, which you will find out when I add you to my email list, when that class will be.
Okay.
So let me suggest that if anybody would like to be on Yvette's email list, if you send me at the Writers Morning Out, my Writers Morning Out email, send me your email and I will collect them and forward them to Yvette. So you can be added to that list.
Oh, I forgot to mention that Sips and Scripts, we meet every first Monday of each month. And for the first time, we're in 2 different locations. It used to just always be in Raleigh. Now it's Raleigh for all of my Raleigh and Raleigh rounding people, sorry. And then we're also at Playmakers in Chapel Hill. So those are alternating locations that happen every month. So whoever is near Chapel Hill, feel free to come, and whoever's near Raleigh, feel free to come. But you'll know those months where we're going to be, if we're going to be in Raleigh, if we're going to be in Chapel Hill, through my email list.
Okay.
That's great, Yvette. And for example, in June, will you be at the Raleigh, the first Monday in June? Is that Raleigh or is that Chapel Hill?
Correct. That will be at NC State in Raleigh. That's our location in Raleigh, NC State University.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And then July will be Chapel Hill.
Correct.
Okay.
And
Very good.
Playmakers.
That's great. All right, thanks, Virginia, for those questions. Are there other folks who have questions for Yvette? I have another one actually, Yvette.
Mhm.
Are there other co-writing opportunities in addition to the Mark Cornell class? Like, I think at one point you had mentioned like pairing up novelists and playwrights.
For me, um, just come to our platform to interact with playwrights and
Okay.
and of course collaborate on future projects. But and the class with Mark Cornell is the only thing that we have that's coming up. His
Okay.
second class actually is coming up, but any other ones outside of me, there are some out there. I think there's one in Durham that I'm familiar with that I actually attended, but I don't know of any off the top of my
Okay.
head as we speak.
Okay. All right, great.
Mhm.
Les, do you have a question?
Yeah, not quite sure of this format. So if the informal meetings of these script writers, these playwrights, they show up and the first five are guaranteed time, a reading or whatever you call it.
Mhm.
So is there a theme that they have to adhere to ahead of time?
Right.
First
So,
question. I'm sorry, you answer
oh, yeah,
that. We'll
go
go through a few questions I have.
ahead. Mhm. Okay. You want me to speak? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have several, so answer
Okay.
that one. So, because I'll forget, you know.
All right. Go ahead. Go right ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And do they have to have in the time limit they are given? I'm assuming there's a time limit. They're given for their presentation. Do they present the whole script, beginning to end? Because it's frustrating to end on a semi-cadence.
Exactly. So right. So playwrights, they'll bring either everything is no more than 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. They'll bring either 10-minute play, short play. They do exist, by the way, guys. Or they'll bring an excerpt of their full-length play. And the other thing that they'll do is they might bring a scene,
Mhm.
something that's all or monologue, something that's all they've written. And I tell people, I'm like, when I try to get people into writing, I'm like, if you just have, a scene, just a 2-person scene, 6 pages, if that's all you've written, fine, bring it. You will get your feedback from
Mhm.
the forum. So yeah, you don't have to. I work with beginners all the way to the established. We are there for the entire to support throughout the entire writing process, preparing for the stage.
So you could have a team of 2 people cooperating on this, playing off one another during a reading? Is that a possibility? Have you done that?
Right, actors. Right,
Yeah.
right. Yep. Playwrights always have their actors. They come at 5 o'clock or close to 5 o'clock, and they're always waiting around to see, the actors that come in, and they just go up and cast them.
It's a really interesting process, actually, to watch the people with the scenes or short plays talking with the actors who show up and figuring out who's going to play what part.
And they
And
have a whole hour. I want everybody to feel comfortable and not rushed. They have a whole hour to just prepare before we start at 6.
So
And
it's like the storytelling format. Is that right?
Yeah, they have their scripts and they just do
Okay.
a cold reading of the scripts. You have like a few minutes to prepare. And yeah, we have some good actors, man. I'm telling you, they I don't know how they do it, but you would think they had that script for weeks.
Yeah, it's
But
really,
yeah, they
they're
take
really
minutes and they do
impressive.
good reading. They do a very good interpretive reading of it.
Yeah.
And I'm currently, I've just introduced, I just added onto our format, improv to playwriting. And that is when, if a playwright is stuck, have a stuck script, they in other words, writer's block, and they don't know what direction to go with it, or if they don't have anything written and they have these ideas in their heads, that's where improv the playwriting comes in. They will talk to their actors and say, okay, here are the details. This is where I want, this is what I want to see, you know, into this particular scene. Here are the characters, and whatever details they want to communicate to the actors, they give them all that information, and they improv off that information to see how it can expand and give that playwright the notes and help that playwright to move out of that position of writer's block or whatever, you know, situation they're in to create a better script. So yeah, so we just did that one last month and it was a success. So I encourage that for anybody that's going through writer's block or just having ideas that, you know, of a script.
So Yvette, if you were writing a novel, could you do the same thing? Could you show up with ideas from your novel and do that improv thing and see if you get ideas? I mean, you could use that really for any form, couldn't you?
You really could. I'm thinking you really could. I've never done that, but I don't see any kinks right now. I mean, all
Yeah.
you're doing is just communicating the ideas.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be enough ideas, because
Yeah.
improvisers, they go off of that. That's very important to them, and just see what happens, you know, to see what happens organically, you know. Yeah,
That's really cool. That's
it's an added service.
I think,
Okay, what's the
Les-
SIP part of this? I get the script part. Where's the zipping come into? The serving wine?
Right. That came, okay, we're okay. NC State, they have a concessions bar, so they have done that for me. Playmakers, not yet, but originally Sips and Scripts was at a place, an artist cafe downtown Raleigh called Emerge. It was a bar and cafe.
I was just kidding.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot to talk about that. And that's where that name comes from. And we continue. I wanted to keep it. People are like, well, change it because you're getting bigger. No. I like the charm of it. So yeah, there you go.
Okay.
You can
So I
sit right
think-
now if you want to.
Les, you also, I think, had a question about theme.
Yeah, these people have to come with, do you send out a theme or are they freelancing the whole thing?
Right. No theme at all. It's whatever you're working on.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Now, for fun, I might throw out something every so often, but no, not regularly. When we were on during the pandemic, I started this evening of monologues, and we did a showcase of monologues. It was a show on Zoom. Yeah, and I thought about doing that again, but you know, it's a whole different thing outside of Zoom, so we'll see what happens.
Wow. So many ideas you have. It's great. Judith, I think you have a question.
A comment and a question. My brain's kind of exploding here. I'm working on putting together some chapbooks of my neglected poetry, and one that is now finished has a lot of narrative in it and a lot of dialogue and humor and inner thoughts. including, well, just as an example. And so I'd love to hear more about your work with poets and poetry. The one of the poems in there is called Our Bull Jughead Goes to Town, which raises all kinds of questions because, yeah, you wouldn't have a bull on the stage. And then Jughead gets annoyed with the way I presented him in that poem. So Jughead has his own poem in which he tells his version of the story.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
and so I'm thinking, this is dramatic. I never thought, I mean, I
I
knew it
love
would be
I love it.
dramatic in a reading, but
Yeah.
and I'd love to come in a couple of months at Playmakers and see you
Oh,
Oh, absolutely.
and
First of all, I love your style already. I love quirky
this
subjects and
is
titles and storylines. I love all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, and the guy that I was talking about that that was a screenplay, screenwriter and a playwright, and we were taking the film concepts into the stage. He writes like that. He writes just like that. You have the same style. His name is Mac McCord. And that's why I loved working with him because he was so quirky. But that would be a great monologue or a great play, whatever, length you want, but starting out something small and then kind of building from there is what I would
yeah,
say,
I would
you
think.
know,
I'm
right.
just like, whoa.
Exactly.
This really happened in my life when I was a child. I grew up on a farm, and our bull Jughead got out one Sunday morning and went all the way to town. And so it's what happened. They finally got him back home near death from exhaustion. He recovered, but it's a hilarious story, except it was
Wow.
pretty hard on the poor bull.
Right, right, right. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. See, yeah, that would make a very interesting monologue,
Yeah.
dramatic monologue. Yeah. So
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be in touch.
mm.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Judith Stanton, right?
Judith
Yes.
Stanton, yeah,
Okay.
novelist and poet.
Oh, and then there's the scholar part.
Do you know Deborah? Anybody know
Yes,
Deborah
professor.
Kaufman? Does anybody know Deborah Kaufman? Okay. She's also a playwright and poet as well.
For some reason, this is reminding me of Judith's story in particular is reminding me of one time for publication, I wrote about interviewing the characters from my first novel, one of whom was an attorney who ended up threatening to sue me and during the course of the interview if I were to write a sequel. So I'm thinking maybe that should be a little scene. I thank you. Thank
This
you.
this is
Yvette.
seriously thought-provoking.
I would never have thought to turn that into a stage scene, but I bet it would work. So
Yeah,
an idea.
absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for this idea. All right. Okay. Any other folks have questions for Yvette? Or thoughts that they'd like to share? This is a, as Judith said, this is a mind-blowing hour we're having here.
I see Penny doing a lot of nodding. What are you thinking about?
I guess my only question is, if I have zero experience with any kind of screenwriting, when you bring a script in, if I were to just bring my novel in, is that acceptable, or does it have to be in a special format for the actors to interpret it?
So so thank you for asking that question. That's awesome. So I would be interested in all of you coming to Sips and Scripts and just interacting with the playwrights.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to, but you can.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
That's a
just
great way to get started. Yeah.
Yeah. And just interact and hearing the pieces and seeing where you can fit in, where,
Mhm.
you know, having another version in play form of your work. You have two different forms. You can submit those, both of them, to whoever, you know, whatever industry, and see what happens. And giving that feedback to the playwright, because Jody does that, and she's very, very very thorough, very, you know, heavy on the details there, and that just challenges people to think, that give that deeper thought. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I would like for you guys to come to meet. If you're interested in, say, like, I want to go ahead and jump into this, I want to write for the stage, like you, Judith, you know, I kind of want to say, please do that. Because I would love to hear the story as a monologue, that kind of thing. And if you can just, Judith, if you can just write it all down and just one little narrative, right? Not poetic form, just a straight narrative for no more than 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I would want to tippy toe you into it, because I want them to hear it, because you're going to get a lot of feedback on that. And you can ask them, you know, well, what do you see this as? What do you see this as a play? Do you see this as monologue? You'll get a lot of feedback on that, because they're going to be very interested in this story concept. This alone is very interesting, you know. So if anybody wants to do that, just have like no more than a 10-minute narrative of whatever. You can come in that way and say, okay, what do you see this as? Do you see this as a radio presentation? Because there's radio dramas. Whatever they'll say, they'll tell you. They'll tell you, and that's how you get your feet wet. Yes, sir.
You know, if you come in and it requires reading, other actors will read your monologue or whatever it is. So you have to bring copies. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Correct. You would have to bring copies. And if you have any, like, directions, what we call stage directions, well, you can have someone to read those stage directions.
Right. So you need enough copies for each of the actors and for someone to read the stage directions.
And to build the sets, because we have 10 minutes to build the sets, right?
Very good.
You
So,
sound like you have a background in theater. Go ahead.
Yeah, right.
so Yvette, there is software, thinking about Penny's question, there is software that will help you format a script, isn't there? And I'm not thinking about.
There's some software there is, but the other thing too that what I do is, because sometimes playwrights have, you know, they're green, whenever they're submitting their pieces to this little program that I do, they come with the different, you know, incorrect formats. So what I do is I send them this link, and it'll give you what the format looks like, a little sample of what it looks like, which is always something very important. I'm very helpful too, if that's interesting to you. I can send or you can just Google the standard format, but I don't mind, you know, providing that link for you, because I know Google is kind of overwhelming.
So, Yvette, if you send that to me, I'd be happy to include it in the newsletter for Writers Morning Out for next time.
Correct. I'm writing a note right now. Absolutely.
Okay. That's terrific. Thank you so much for that.
Sure.
All right. This has been terrific. All right, we have time for one more question, if anyone has one more question. Otherwise,
Al, your material is a natural for this. I hope your your thinking along those lines.
I did a little bit. When I was in undergraduate school, I was an actor.
Oh, for starters, that's a good
Oh.
start.
There you go.
That's awesome. That is amazing.
Yeah.
All right, very
Well,
good.
we welcome you. And just before we just remember, guys, there, like I said, there is a kinship already established. This is not foreign. Some things are going to be different, of course, obviously, but for the most part, you will be familiar with this. This is not something I don't want anyone to be intimidated. You guys have a lot in common, and the things that are different won't be hard for you to figure out because you're already writers.
Okay.
Well, also, if I may add, just to supplement what you're saying, when I was teaching in graduate school at UNC, I was teaching film criticism to juniors and seniors. And one of the assignments that we came up with was write a scene. Write a scene. Well, what was amazing is that those kids were so film literate that the first thing they produced was good. I mean, they were already producing film scripts. They knew what the exercise was to get them to have more firsthand knowledge of options like cuts and fades and pans and what flash editing or whatever they're up against. And they were just good to go they didn't need any instruction. I think we naturally do have a feel for this, all the watching we do.
That's amazing. Yeah.
They were.
Yeah, very good.
Can I ask a couple questions to y'all?
Yeah, please.
Uh-huh. So where anybody can answer this, but where are you guys where are you in your writing stages? Like are you it sounds like you guys are ready to go further and explore and see what's out there and collaborate and things like that. It seems like it from the energy that I'm picking up. But is there anything that makes you kind of fear or doubt this new thing here? This type of opportunity with writers, or where are you with this? Like,
Go ahead, Les.
Yeah, right. That's
Well, as you look across all these little screens, each one of us has a different story, a different level of experience, different things published. Some of us are poets, some short stories, some novelists, and some hanger-ons. So we're all over the place.
okay,
Which is
great.
probably similar to the audience in your group.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're up for a challenge, huh? I mean, well, it's not, I wouldn't say a big challenge, but you're up for getting outside the box, outside of your comfort zone.
I think we're up for playing in other sandboxes.
There you go.
Yes,
You know?
well said.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah.
And where are you guys from? Are you from the Triangle or outside the Triangle?
Yeah, Writers Morning Out mostly includes 7 counties, including Chatham, and then some more rural counties.
Okay.
So we're Pittsboro, Siler City. I don't know where other folks are from, but
Southern Pines.
Pardon?
Southern Pines.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Chapel Hill would be probably, for the most part, would be the location. Okay, great.
Yeah. Much.
Honey, you could go to both.
Oh,
I
both.
could,
Yeah.
I'm in Holly
Good.
Springs.
Not that far.
Not that far at all, actually.
Yeah.
Well, this is amazing. Okay. Well, that tells me a lot.
So great. So folks can also, in addition to getting on your mailing list, and again, send me your, I see we have some in our chat, which I will keep, and then do email me if you would like to be on Yvette's mailing list. And also, if you get on Facebook, you can also follow Sips and Scripts there on Yvette's Facebook page and hear about upcoming meetings and other activities there as well. So I just really want to thank you, Yvette. This has been a terrific presentation. Now let's give her a big hand.
Thank
This is
you.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with
Sorry
us
for my
today.
enthusiasm. Sorry for my enthusiasm because I'm ADHD and I get really passionate about these kinds of things and talk about them. And I'm very quirky.
Good.
and proud of it.
Yay. Quirky means creative. So that's great. I think you're in the company of a bunch of quirky people here.
Yeah, don't worry, we're all on drugs here.
Well,
I don't think we need them. I think we're just that way. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for participating today. And Yvette, this has been mind-blowing and wonderful. And we will follow your career with massive interest and wishing you all the best with all your future endeavors.
Thank
And
you.
we will see you at Sips and Scripts.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you
Super.
so
Thank
much.
you.